Hey guys, Greg here. I've got Kelly Rempel, the voice of the Inside the Thunderdome podcast and man of game day experience for the Regina Thunder this year. Big game coming up. Hilltops are in town. This rivalry is nuts. I can't wait to talk a little bit about it because anyone who listens to Piffles knows I keep on plugging the Thunder, and I love this team because I'm part of the board. So I'm putting my money where my mouth is. Well, my time where my mouth is, and so is Kelly. So Kelly, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, it's good to be here with you, Greg. I've been looking forward to this all day.
Oh, come on, don't lie to the people.
No, I have been. Listen, let's face it, okay? There should be more people talking about junior football than there are. It flies a little too low under the radar. And so when I get the opportunity to actually talk with somebody that wants to talk about it, of course I'm going to be excited about it. I mean, I don't care who you are. If you're a football fan, and I mean this in all seriousness, if you're a football fan of any ilk, of any kind, you should be fired right up about this game Saturday night at Mosaic Stadium between the two best junior football teams, arguably in the country. And they both live right here in Saskatchewan, and they're playing against one another under the lights Saturday, 7 o'clock. The Hilltops, the Thunder, battle for first place. I mean, what more do you want? Seriously.
This game is always my favorite on the calendar. Those that listen to Piffles knows I'm actually skipping our Banjo Bowl bus just to stay around for this game because I love it so much because it's something about the Hilltops and Thunder that these games, and it's nothing against the Huskies or the Colts or the Rifles or even the Wildcats, but these games, this is a true rivalry game, and to think it's barely 25 years old because of the introduction of the Thunder after the Rams went to U Sports.
Correct. Well, that's true. I mean, if you really want to talk about the junior football rivalry between Saskatoon, I mean, we go way, 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 way back. And I remember when I was growing up in high school, guys like Jeff Haggerty, I played football. He and I were the captains of the Riverview Royals way back in the day. Now, I don't name drop there to try to put myself in the same. I would never try to pretend that I'm near as good as Jeff. He was at a little different level than what I was. But I that was, back in my day, Mark Bernard, Jamie Bailey, so many great Regina Rams that came through Moose Jaw, and I had the pleasure of either playing with them or against them. And just to know how good they were and how good that you would have to be to have made the Rams way back in the day. But that was a different time. That was at a time where there was no university team. So a lot of those players if they wanted to stay in Regina, there was only one place to go. Now there's options. So they sort of divide the local guys up, the Southern Saskatchewan guys. And I realized that they go to Calgary and they go to UBC and they go to Edmonton and they do all those things. But you know what I'm saying? There was only one university team in the entire province that kind of got those guys at the local level anyway. And then the two, divided themselves up. Now it's even more competitive when the Rams decided to go to U Sport. So you would think that maybe the rivalry would sort of dissipate a little bit or would become a little bit less, but the opposites happen. I would argue that now there's more hatred between the Hilltops and the Thunder than there might even have been back in the day, because let's face it, the Rams were a better team. I'm not saying the Hilltops weren't good. Dave Reedy was a great quarterback back in the day from Vanier, and he's now a really good friend of mine, has Henderson Insurance here in Regina. I talk to Dave all the time. We have a friendly rivalry when the Thunder play the Hilltops. But, I think that the level of rivalry now is as strong as it's ever been. And I felt it last year, Greg. I'll give you a little bit of an inside story here. So Scott McCauley last year, this is, as you know, you've been on the board for a few years, but this is my first. But last year I was doing the Thunder Inside the Thunderdome podcast. And Scotty says to me, he says, are you coming up with us on the bus to go to Saskatoon for the playoff game? And I kind of thought to myself, why would I ride the bus with the team? He says, I want you to ride the bus. I want you to come up with us. I said, okay. So I did, stayed with the team in Saskatoon. And I think the reason that he did it is because he wanted me to get the inside feeling of sitting in those coaches and players meetings, watching from the field level during the warm-ups, just to get the sense and the feeling of the rivalry that you don't get. You get a hint of it. You get a taste of it when you're up in section whatever, watching the game at Griffith Stadium or at Mosaic Stadium. But when you're knee deep in it, in the locker room with the players before the game, when you're walking the field with the coaches, he said, I did it for a reason. I wanted you to completely get immersed in it, so you understood what is going on here. We don't like them very much. They don't like us very much. We respect the heck out of them. But we don't like them. And it was hard on them, to lose to them 3 times last year. If my memory serves me correctly, the Thunder actually beat them 3 times the previous
year. Yeah.
Yeah. So who knows what's going to happen this year, Greg? I mean, do you have any thoughts on that? It's tough when you look at the stats. The 2 teams are 3-0. They lead in almost every category between the 2 of them. So I don't really know what to make of it, other than it's going to be a slobber knocker, as Jim Ross would say.
Both teams, by God, that is Scott McCauley's music. But this is their first test. They have both been amping their way towards this game because, let's face it, Winnipeg's had some quarterback issues this year. The Wildcats, unfortunately, are usually the lesser thans in this league. Huskies usually draw the better players out of the Edmonton area. So the Thunder really haven't had much of a test, so to speak. So these 3 games ramping up to the Hilltops have been trying to get everything in motion so they're ready.
Like a dress rehearsal.
Essentially. The Hilltops had a little more competition with the Colts and the Huskies, but not much, as proven by the scores. So it's going to be hard to tell. Have these guys they are so amped up. This game this weekend is going to be, you're right, a slobber knocker. It is going to be, last one to touch the football is probably going to win this one, because I think it's going to be that tight.
Yeah, it's kind of like this is my second wrestling reference that I'll drop, but it's kind of like Gorilla Monsoon used to say when he'd say, "The indestructible force is meeting the immovable object," and it really kind of is, when you think about it, because I don't know, you go up and down the roster and you can try to analyze it or dissect it, but until these 2 teams actually play one another, it's impossible to make sense out of any of it. They really do need to go head to head before you really know. Because I was listening to Scott McCauley. He made a great point the other day. He said, we've got the most yards and we do lead in a lot of the categories. And the Edmonton Wildcats and the Winnipeg Rifles in particular are dead last in most categories. But is that because they've played us? Is it, is what you said true? Is it, do the Edmonton Huskies and the Calgary Colts, are they better teams than the Wildcats and the Rifles, or have the Rifles just had the misfortune of playing the Thunder twice? Because I can tell you, Greg, when I went to Medicine Hat, and I know it's preseason, I understand that, but we all know how this works. Generally, the better players on the 2 teams start the game. By the time you get to the 4th quarter, who knows? It's you're talking about 3rd and 4th string guys. But the first half, for the most part, tend to be the starters and the depth guys, the backup guys. Well, the Thunder destroyed the Calgary Colts in the first half of that game. It wasn't even close. So if you use that as a bit of a barometer, they would match up about the same as what the Hilltops did. Now, when you look at the Thunder, you take a look at the fact that, they lead the league in let's talk about Paul Dawson's defense. Mm-hmm. Nobody's given up fewer yards. They've only given up 2 touchdowns all year. They're the best run defense and the best pass defense. But who's the second best run defense and the second best pass defense? Mm-hmm. Now, is Saskatoon statistically just a little less because they played better teams? Maybe. but we won't know until they play. You
And
know,
that's like, that is the mystery of this game. That is why I'm so amped up for it, because like I said, it is the first true test both
for
teams are going to
both
have.
teams.
And I'm a little sad that we're not doing the back to back like we did a few years ago, where after they punched each other in the mouths one game, they had to go back up to Saskatoon and do it all over again. But maybe it's a good thing that it's going to be spaced out, because after that, they won't meet again until the playoffs.
Yeah. And yeah, like, I don't know about you, but a lot of times in games like this, it's those little intangibles that are the difference between winning and losing. You know, I don't see either team smashing the ball down the other team's throat up and down the field. I just don't see that happening. Now, I could end up being dead wrong, and I'll be surprised at how easily one team is able to sort of control the line of scrimmage or run the ball or pass protect or whatever, but I doubt it. It's probably going to be, somebody returns a punt for a touchdown, or somebody, there's a 60-yard touchdown that's called back because of a penalty, or there's a fourth quarter fumble. Somebody fumbles on their own 20, or like, I just feel like it's going to come down to one or two plays in the game that might be the difference between winning and losing. What do you think?
Oh, 100%. Like, it is going to, the old cliche, football is a game of inches, and that's exactly what's going to be. This is going to be a penalty flag to the wrong side. It's going to be a couple inches too short. It's going to be an untimely fumble when you don't need one. Like, you're talking about kick return. I hate to say it, Hilltops has got one of the best ones in the league. So
It's true.
it's going to be a hell of a game on Saturday night. And I know this is just a quick one, so we're running out of time here. But speaking of it, it is our
add more time. Then add more time. We'll sit here all night.
I would love to, but I got a draft that actually is going to cost me money if I don't. I do not need the last pick in the draft. However, so you are the was it the community? No, community engagement. You are the fan experience guy.
Game day experience, my friend.
Game day experience. So
yes.
What can the fans look forward to at Mosaic Stadium for hopefully a very full house?
Well, it's going to be a very, very interesting night. There's going to be, we're going to celebrate with our friends from the Indigenous community. They're going to be there in full force. There's going to be entertainment outside the stadium, powwow outside the stadium, teepee setup. You can come out, you can enjoy yourself there. Then they're going to do a dance at halftime. So that's going to be lots of fun. But there's other stuff going on too. Regina Flag Football, Mike Thomas and the group from Flag Football, they're going to be coming. Anybody that plays flag football in the city of Regina, any of the players will get admitted if they wear their jersey to the game. We got our friend Chase Hussey over there at the country music station, Pure Country. They're going to be doing a sack hunger promotion. So bring make a donation to bring some food for the food bank. So we got that going on. There's just so much going on. Like the game needed more, like we needed to add a whole bunch of creativity and excitement to the game. There's going to be fun on the field. There's going to be fun off the field. I saw the video that you did. It's unbelievable. That's going to be played before the game. So people, if you're coming to this game, do not miss the opening kickoff and the player introductions, because Greg's cooked up something special for that. No, it's going to be fantastic. I can't wait. I've been excited about this since the schedule came out. And I hate to say things like that because people say, well, don't overlook other teams. But I had a pretty good idea that these two teams would both be 3-0 coming into this game. But I can honestly say to you, and I probably shouldn't say things like this, but I'm just being honest, I have no idea what's going to happen. Because when you got two teams of this caliber playing against one another, anything could happen. I just know it's going to be a great football game under the lights at Mosaic Stadium, 7:00 Saturday. Don't miss it. If you're a football fan, hopefully we're watching a Rider win at the Banjo Bowl. I'm not holding my breath, but hopefully everybody's in a good mood after that game, and then come on over and check out the junior game.
Or if they're in a bad mood, you need to pick up, come watch a better football game because I'm worried without a Riders offensive line.
Ooh, tell me about it. I thought Jamie and I said today on the Green Zone that they've gone through 14.
Yep.
14. Is that right?
That's
Could that
right.
possibly be true?
The
14 play.
The only guy left from the start game one offensive line starters is Furlan.
Is the
Regina
former Thunder alumni. Now he's playing center.
Yeah, I know.
Yikes.
I love the guy. He's a human Swiss Army knife on that line, but he's not a center.
Good guy.
Anyway, we're going late and I gotta go. So
go win that
Kelly,
draft.
I will. Kelly, thanks for coming on at Silver Fox Talks on the X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. New Inside the Thunderdome coming out Friday morning for your earlobes. Get ready for that game. See you guys on Saturday. Okay, back again. A little more Hilltops, a little more Thunder. I got John Fraser. Am I saying that right?
You are. I appreciate that, because when you said it slightly wrong on a recent episode of this podcast, I had text alerts. I had people blowing me up, Greg, telling me to come after you for saying a Fraser instead of a Fraser. So I do appreciate it, buddy.
Well, I have to. It's just a thing. But hey, we got to start the rivalry somehow.
That's true. And I mean, mispronouncing names is something that may have happened in my past once or twice in one season. So
once, yeah. But anyways, John Fremboise. Let's move on from here. So obviously, you got some good ties to the Hilltops. You were their play-by-play guy. Many of their players. Pricey, who's in our league, good friend of yours, son's on the team. You were their mispronouncing names PA announcer
for one glorious season until scheduling conflicts got in the way. But I think that was the latest iron in the fire to the rivalry, and I'm weirdly proud that I created so much chaos with that. It was kind of fun.
It came up a few weeks ago at a meeting, so that's left an impression, sir.
That is unbelievable.
But from your side, the Hilltop side, call it yours, even though you're not really doing anything with the team anymore. What's this rivalry like? I just had Kelly Rempel with the Thunder, and he brought us back the Rams and the Hilltop stage.
Yes, long time ago, yeah.
So from you being broken from Atikokan, so you came into this. You were not born in Saskatchewan, so tell me the Hilltops Regina rivalry from your end.
Well, I moved to the city here in 2011, and it was one of the first things that I had learned about was the Saskatoon Hilltops and the success and just how good the ball is in the CJFL and the PFC, right? And then the second thing I learned was Regina sucks, Regina's terrible, and we always hate them, right? So my era with the rivalry has really been since the opening of Saskatoon Minor Football Field, and we talk about key moments in the rivalry. I know still to this day, the Regina Thunder spoiling the opening of SMF Field, that still has some people on boil. And I know that did for several years, because when I came into it as the play-by-play guy, Regina was kind of coming out on top more often than they normally had, right? The Hilltops were kind of always getting the best of Regina, and that has kind of come around again. But during that brief moment in history, Regina had the upper hand briefly, like to the point that the road trips to Regina, there was like no fun allowed on the bus, right? If you went to Regina, and because the thing I love too with this rivalry, they're always the night games, right? Just logistically, it just makes sense. You bus, you have a night game, it's under the lights. There's a little bit more atmosphere with that. And both clubs do a really good job of building around that, right? The Hilltops do, they usually got a player there for the night. They got their scholarship dinner. It's really an event here in the city, and it really shows up on the radar. And there's something special about football under the lights. You've had a few beers, fans are getting into it with each other. A PA announcer says Regina, Saskatchewan's other team, and really people get really fired up with that stuff. But for me coming in, it was interesting to see that, you hear all this stuff that, oh yeah, Saskatoon's this dominant franchise and they've always won and they've always beat Regina. To have Regina come in and spoil the party a few times, including in a PFC final at Griffith Stadium. It was kind of cool for me to be a part of the Hilltops undertaking off the mat, really, because Regina had fed them their lunch for a couple years. And then we have the game. I have photos of this. It was one of It was the last time I think our clubs ever played at Old Mosaic. And it was a come from behind thriller. And I can tell you, Greg, the bus after that win was a lot more fun than the bus after some of the losses that they suffered that I was on.
So I think the biggest thing about the Hilltops and the Thunder rivalry, from my point of view, and I came into it around 2017 was my first introduction to the team. 2018 is when I got suckered to be on the board, and like completely just kidnapped and brainwashed. It's total Stockholm syndrome at this point, but. The amount of talent in Saskatchewan is absolutely unnerving. You've got, because the Huskies can still play, the Rams can still play, and then you still have the Thunder and the Hilltops, and you got guys graduating from these teams going all across the country.
Yeah, I mean, it's remarkable that for how many years, as long as you and I have both been involved as fans or whatever, and this is why the Hilltops Thunder rivalry is so big, is because it's always 1-2. Like, I can't think of a time, like sometimes Edmonton creeps in. Winnipeg, back when I first started, had a couple decent seasons, but you said it, like every regular season matchup means something because you know it's going to be a tiebreaker of some sort because the talent level that's here in Saskatchewan, you're right. The Rams are nationally competitive in youth sports. The Huskies might be having a bit of a down year, but traditionally have been very competitive in youth sports, right? And yet you still have these teams that are largely filled with Saskatchewan guys getting a chance to play. Like if you look through the rosters of these guys, you've got, I know you guys did some cool stuff bringing in some overseas players, which is awesome. I love that. Grow the game, get guys a chance to play at a high level. And I know we've brought in some Alberta players before in the past, right? But still 99% of those rosters are Saskatchewan kids, right? So you've got the connection here. You've got the families, you got the friends, you got everybody that's coming out to cheer for their friends and family. Maybe I think that's what makes it the rivalry so much more emotional, right? Like I don't think, like going back to my experience of how many feathers I ruffled by calling Regina Saskatchewan's other team as the public address announcer. Somebody you could make a crack. Like, let's face it, National Lacrosse League, RPA guys, ish talk other teams all the time. Your guys in Regina could do the same thing to Winnipeg. I mean, the Banjo Bowl is literally a joke about the two players and everybody just kind of laughs and high fives, but the passion of this rivalry, the talent of this rivalry, like it's really remarkable. And it's been so cool to be an in-depth part of that. And I don't take it for granted that every time I called the Canadian Bowl Championship, we had to beat Regina to get there. And every player in that room knew that was going to be the most talent you would see the entire playoff run. And I've got photos of the Canadian Bowl over my head and other ones of me getting hit in the eye with it while trying to chug out of it. But because, you beat Regina, you go into the Canadian Bowl, and same vice versa. I know you guys in Saskatoon, it just, it hasn't happened lately. So
easy now. But the fact remains is, looking ahead to this weekend, both teams are 3-0.
Of course,
this is
as you expected.
As expected, this is going to be their first real test because the question is, and actually Scott McCauley and Kelly alluded to this earlier. Scotty says we don't know if these teams are, if we're that much better than the teams we beat, or if it's because they were playing us.
Yes.
So this is going to be their first true competition, for lack of a better term, with someone of equal footing, because that's what it is.
Well, yeah, and the PFC, to me, the PFC has stayed the same talent-wise. It's largely a feeding ground in other markets for the youth sports teams. Meanwhile, even what's crazy to me is I know the University of Saskatchewan, the University of Regina basically went from waiting till you were a fifth year and then taking you, right, from both of our teams, from both the Hilltops and the Thunder. Now, they're taking guys after their third year because they know how good these players are. They know how badly they need them for 5 years of youth sports. And yet we're still fielding teams that are way more competitive than it's funny. Like, it's like our clubs are getting better as the rest of the PFC stay stuck in neutral. So it is every year. And even when doing play-by-play, it felt like the preseason until you played Regina. Like, it felt like warm-up games. You're just trying to get through them. You're trying to figure out those wrinkles. You want to make sure that nobody gets hurt. You don't want a devastating injury in these games against Winnipeg and Edmonton and all that kind of stuff, right? You want to get through them healthy because your two big tests are going to be, and let's face it, it comes down to 3 tests against each other, right? Every single. So you're going to see them in Regina, you're going to see them in Saskatoon, and then you're going to see them in the postseason. So it feels like, to use a UFC reference or a boxing reference, the rest of the season's the undercards, and now you're getting the main event and you're going to have eyeballs. And I love the fact that, you know, they say the CFL season starts at Labor Day. Well, the PFC season starts when these two teams play each other.
Oh, 100%. And that's the fun with it. And kind of going back to the talent wise, when you have guys like Stephen Smith, who played at North Valley, out of Kalali, Saskatchewan. Kalali? Yeah, Kalali.
Yeah.
6-man football.
Yeah.
Never played. And now he's on the Riders practice roster.
Yeah.
Best defensive player in the CJFL. Like, the talent on these teams, it doesn't matter if it's the starter or the guy who's sitting on the bench the entire time. It is wild.
Yeah. You look at Canada's national flag football team. That was basically the Hilltops of 2011, 2012, with a couple Regina guys sprinkled in. Like, that core of that team was Hilltops and Huskies. And those are guys that go to not just a national championship, to an international championship, right? And that's what you're seeing. I mean, we've seen it in, you know, I know the Hilltops haven't had quite the success lately of guys making the jump to the pros, right? It's just, that's the reality of it. I know that is one thing. And a big part of that is, I'm sure, because, you know, the Riders, you know, you're in the Riders' backyard, you share the facility with them. But it's just amazing the number of guys, like, you've shown me the videos you've been producing for in-game stuff and pre-game stuff with, like, the old, like, grayscale photos of guys that are in the show now. Like, to me, it's remarkable the talent level that these guys have sent to the next level. Like, it's funny. It's commonplace for it to happen here in Saskatchewan. Meanwhile, Andrew Harris does it in Vancouver, and it's like, oh my God, this is the biggest story ever. A guy made the jump. Meanwhile, like you said, you got guys on the Riders practice roster right now that are playing for the Regina Thunder. So it's the talent is it's there. When these two teams play each other, it rivals U Sports. Like, I'm not sitting here going, oh, yeah, you know, the Thunder could beat the Rams or anything like this, but you wouldn't get the doors blown off like you would against any other team, right? It would be a close matchup just strictly based on the talent level of these clubs. And if we're, like, selling tickets, like, go. Like, just get your butt, go buy some tickets, get your butt down to the stadium, go enjoy. It's going to be great.
Like, I am so pumped for this game. Like, I'm avoiding going to the Banjo Ball. Yeah, I'm avoiding going to the Banjo Bowl on a bus with Piffle's podcast, and it's just going to be a party because I want to be at this game because I know it's going to be that good.
Yeah, and there is one, I try to make it out, you know, I mean, you got kids too, you know how busy life can be. I try to make it out to one Hilltops game a year, and it's always that Saturday night against Regina because you know you're going to get your money's worth. You know it's going to be a battle. And, of course, you know, if you're taking the drive down from Saskatoon for this weekend's game, you're going to drive happy. Okay, I can tell you the off sale in Chamberlain stays open very late. Don't drink and drive, but I can tell you it's the best way to celebrate a Hilltops win in Regina.
And the good news is there probably won't be a check stop there this weekend like it was last weekend.
Exactly. Don't be a dummy, but I can tell you to celebrate a win, that place is open very late.